Hi there, welcome to the last part of the Economy Web video. Right now we're going to be talking about the last section here, which is about the different economic systems that exist in different countries. Okay, so there are three main economic systems I'd like to describe to you here. And the first one is called a market economy, also called free market. The second one is called a command economy. And then the third one is something that is seen quite a bit less often, is called the traditional economy. So let's start with the market economy. The market economy is the kind of economic system that you find, for example, in the United States, or that you find in countries like Japan. But you find it in lots of other places, like you find it in Europe, in most of the Western European countries like France, England, Germany. And you also find it in a lot of South American countries like Brazil, countries where they have a lot of businesses. It has another name, and it's called capitalism. All right. So the market economy, which is called capitalism, is the main economic system in the United States and in most developed Western countries. What that basically means is that there is quite a bit of economic freedom, that people can choose what kind of job they want to have. Most of the economic activity is not run by the government, it's run by people, or it's run by companies. And the businesses are pretty much free to conduct business the way that they think is going to get them the most profit. The government does not control what the businesses do. Of course, there are usually some rules and regulations for the businesses about what they're allowed to do and not allowed to do. But in a true free market economy, there would be as little interference as possible by the government. The opposite of this would be a command economy. And in a command economy, you have kind of a different situation, because in the command economy, it's set up so that the government basically controls what's going to happen in that economy. They're going to control the jobs, they're going to own the factories, they're going to set the prices, but they're also going to be responsible for providing for the welfare of the people. So the idea of a command economy comes from the concept of communism, or also called socialism, which is that everything is owned together and people take care of each other through common effort. Um, it sounds like a good idea, but the reality of the past is that the command economy is not always that successful. Um, some basic examples of the command economy would be, or the communist economy would be Cuba. That's still going on today. North Korea is still a command economy where the government is making all the economic decisions. And then the most obvious example over history was the Soviet Union, which operated as a communist country for about 70 years, from 1919 to 1989. Um, there is not necessarily any kind of country that has a pure free market economy or a pure command economy, because usually the government does need to control certain things in order to protect people from being taken advantage of. But the more the government interference and the more government regulations exist, the less you have a free market capitalist economy, and it becomes start to be more like a command economy where the government makes a lot of rules. Now, most economies today are more towards like a market economy, and there's very few economies left today that are like more of command economies. Although there are certain countries in Europe where the government has lots of rules and does provide a lot of services for the people, and those countries are a little bit on the socialist side as far as being pure capitalist. Now, what about traditional economy? The traditional economy would be the kind of economies that you find in places that have not really been touched too much by the progress of modern technology. So, in a traditional economy, people live in villages, or they might travel around with herds of animals, or even in some certain places, they still live by hunting and gathering and do very little farming or raising of animals. So, some examples of a traditional economy would be, for example, when Christopher Columbus arrived in Puerto Rico, the Tainos were living in a traditional economy. If you go to certain places in the Amazon basin where there are Native American tribes still living with very little interference from the outside world, those Amazon tribes would be living in a traditional economy. And then in certain places in Asia and in Africa where the land is very rugged and people are isolated by the geography, they still might live in a sort of a more traditional way, such as in rural Afghanistan. So what we've learned in this lecture is that the economy is affected by the resources in its place, and whether the government is stable enough to allow people to take advantage of those resources, such as the environmental resources, the human capital, or the infrastructure. And that economy includes different sectors of jobs, such as agriculture, services, manufacturing, laborers. And that there are in different countries different economic systems, such as the market economy, which is based on free choice, and the command economy, where the government is very involved in making decisions about people's lives. That's our notes on economy. I hope you've learned something, and good luck on the test.